We will now hear a message from the United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres on the occasion of the International Day of Peace.
Peace is at the heart of all our work at the United Nations. And we know peace is much more than a world free of war. It means resilient, stable societies where everyone can enjoy fundamental freedoms and thrive rather than struggle to meet basic needs. Today, peace faces a new danger, the climate emergency, which threatens our security, our livelihoods and our lives. That is why it is the focus of this year's International Day of Peace. And it's why I'm convening a Climate Action Summit. This is a global crisis. Only by working together can we make our only home peaceful, prosperous and safe for us and future generations. On this International Day of Peace, I urge all of you, take concrete climate action and demand it of your leaders. This is a race we can and must win.
We are now pleased to introduce the Director General of the United Nations Office at Geneva, Tatiana Volovaya. Welcome, Madam Director General.
For me, it's my first peace talks in Geneva here, but this tradition started in the year 2013, and it's really a great tradition, because all around the world we are celebrating 21st of September as an International Day of Peace. And as just Secretary General said, this year we have a special emphasis on a climate action, because we really need peace and we need climate action. And that's the topic for the current peace talks. But at the same time, our peace talks today are about trust. And trust is crucial, because when we have to build peace, we don't need power, we need trust. And this year shows us that we really need trust. We celebrate this year 100th anniversary of the birth of modern multilateralism. And as a result of the First World War, we saw the birth of multilateralism and we saw the birth of Society of Nations. It was exactly that at the outcome of the first big war, the nations understood the necessity of trust. We have to trust, we have to build the institutions. Unfortunately, even with this trust, after the First World War, the Second World War started. And again, as an outcome of the Second World War, another multilateral institution, United Nations, were born. And the next year, we are going to celebrate 75th anniversary. So when we are speaking now, we see that the situation in the world is not easy. And from a day to day, it can get worse. And the climate change is a risk to peace. So what we need today, of course, we don't have to wait for another catastrophe to take place in order to build more multilateralism and to build peace. So we welcome the discussion which is going to happen today. I would like to thank our partners, Interpeace, Swiss Confederation, and other partners for launching this event. And I welcome the coming presentations, which I hope will be very promoting and very personal. And let's have real discussion how we can celebrate 100th years of multilateralism and 75th anniversary of the United Nations with building real peace and real trust. Thank you.
You go first. Yeah? Okay, you go, or you can go on the left.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2019 Geneva Peace Talks, and a warm welcome to our viewers online. I'm Rainer Gude from Initiatives of Change, and together with Sarah Noble, the curator of the Peace Talks at Interpeace, we wish to be your moderators today. We heard words of the United Nations Secretary General, and also of the United Nations Director General. And thank you very much for your opening remarks, inspiring the meaning of trust and peace. The International Day of Peace is dedicated to strengthening the ideals of peace within and among all nations and people. We are delighted to see so many of you here to celebrate this day together.
Great. Every day we're bombarded with stories of conflict and war, but I assure you that today the Geneva Peace Talks are here to give you hope and inspire you to take action. The Peace Talks are an initiative to showcase the inspirational stories of individuals who are contributing to peace around the world. They were co-founded by the United Nations Office at Geneva, the Geneva Peacebuilding Platform, and Interpeace with the support of the Swiss government. To date, we have held 13 peace talks in over 6 countries with over 140 speakers, 7,000 attendees, and hundreds of millions of impressions on social media. The theme for our event today, as you've heard, is Trust Matters. In our globalized world, the meaning of trust may vary across sectors, but trust is the pillar of peace. Trust is the glue that holds relationships, societies, and economies together.
Today, we'll hear stories from 8 exceptional people. The speakers come from across different professional and personal backgrounds to emphasize that each and every one of us, regardless of our age and background, can contribute to promoting peace in our communities and beyond. Our speakers include an entrepreneur, a peace mediator, a filmmaker, a policewoman, a peace builder, 2 young women building bridges across religious divides, and a young person who is building bridges between the youth and politicians.
Great. And at the Peace Talks, we don't only talk peace, but we also have art and music. So we will have Abbas Bahoubza, who is a Tunisian painter, who will be doing a live painting for us. This is the first for the Peace Talks. So he'll be inspired by the talks that he hears, and he also does work in his native Tunisia to promote reconciliation through a Extremely Together project. And we'll come back to him at the end of the event once he starts painting, and we'll also have some music from Postoshock. But before we get started, let's thank the people that have made this event possible. We'd like to thank the Swiss Confederation, the Republican Canton of Geneva, the City of Geneva, and Mirabeau Bank. And again, also a thanks to the partners of the event, the Tunisian Mission of the United Nations, the Initiatives of Change, the Geneva Center for Security Sector Governance, Fries Husset, Generations for Peace, and Tunis Air. Good. We have lots of claps.
Before we start, a few practical details. This is a multilingual event, and simultaneous interpretation in English, French, and Spanish are available using your headpieces. There will be an opportunity to interact directly with the speakers during the reception following the event. Therefore, there will be no questions during the event. The talks you're about to hear do not necessarily reflect the views of the organizers nor the sponsors. And please put your phone on silent. Don't use flash photography, but please be active on social media by using the hashtag GVA PeaceTalks. Now that is out of the way, before we introduce our speakers, have a look around the room. This room is actually full of peace builders. Please take a moment, look around, find someone you don't know, introduce yourself, and say why you came here and how you work for peace. Don't be shy.
Cineast. I'm going to do this in English. Great. Thank you so much for sharing. I think we'll... This is a lively room today. Is my mic on? Is my mic on? Can you hear me? Great. Thank you so much all for sharing. We're now going to start. I'll give you a second to... Okay. Great. So thank you so much for sharing and meeting new friends. We're going to start. And I'd like to introduce our first speaker. Thank you so much for sharing. It's a lively room, which is wonderful, which means that you've all met somebody new. So I'm very pleased to introduce our first speaker today. Our first speaker is a filmmaker, and this is the first time that we feature a filmmaker at the Peace Talks, which is wonderful. His name is Cesar Diaz, and he has created a long film called Nuestras Madres. He has won the Camera d'Or at Cannes for his first production, and he also was the selection of Belgium, or is the selection of Belgium for the Best Foreign Film at the 2020 Oscars. So before we start, we're going to see a short promo for the film, and then César will start and we'll speak in French. So please join me in welcoming César and his film. I'm not sure they can do that.
Y gritemos todos unidos, ¡viva la Internacional!
Va a probar que en los planes militares se caracterizó al 100% de la población como enemigo interno.
Elizabeth y María sí van a ir a testificar. Y eso que se están muriendo de miedo.
Que vayan.
Pues tú también deberías ir.
Dice que vengo a buscarle a usted para que me haga el favor de desenterrar a mi marido. Esta foto lo tengo en la casa.
¿Y el guerrillero cómo se llama?
Tienes que dejarle la investigación a alguien más. De todos modos, no creo que sea tu padre.
Madre, en este pinche país solo se puede vivir o loco o a verga.
Yo elegí, mano. A verga.
Cuando encontremos los restos de don Mateo, vamos a necesitar comparar su ADN con el de algún familiar con quien tenga vínculo directo.
Todos están muertos.
Los muertos están muertos, aunque no sepamos dónde están.
Llamo a la testigo Cristina Ramírez.
¿Tengo sus ojos?
Tiene su mirada.
¿Soy como él?
Tiene su fuerza. Tú eres lo más hermoso que me ha pasado en la vida.
Bonjour. Je vous promets que dans le noir, dans une salle de cinéma, c'est mieux. Merci de m'avoir invité. Enfin, pour un cinéaste, c'est pas courant de venir dans ce genre de lieux, dans ce genre d'endroits. Surtout de pouvoir parler avec vous un peu de mon travail, de pourquoi je l'ai fait. Je pense qu'un cinéaste explore la condition humaine. C'est un peu notre responsabilité et notre travail. On est là pour réfléchir, imaginer, dialoguer. Et construire autre chose, c'est peut-être construire une société différente. J'ai toujours pensé que quand on est face à un film, on dialogue avec les films et c'est un peu la base sur laquelle je travaille. Je travaille aussi sur la mémoire historique du Guatemala, mon pays d'origine, mais pas comme quelque chose d'abstrait, mais comme quelque chose de concret, palpable, qu'on peut le voir dans les regards de survivants, dans l'espoir des gens qui attendent quelqu'un qui a disparu. Enfin, c'est là où on peut voir la mémoire historique. Ce n'est pas quelque chose d'abstrait, c'est concret, c'est des gens que j'ai filmés. J'ai rencontré cette histoire en faisant des repérages pour un documentaire et tout d'un coup, il y avait des femmes qui étaient victimes de violences et qui m'ont raconté leur histoire, de comment Les villages avaient été massacrés, les humiliations qu'elles avaient subies. Et tout d'un coup, on se sent avec une responsabilité. C'est-à-dire, ces femmes-là me racontent une histoire à moi, et moi, je suis capable de la raconter au monde. Et donc, c'est quelque chose qu'on porte sur soi. Et c'est peut-être ces femmes qui m'ont donné envie de faire ces films aussi, non? Et les films, juste en 2 mots, ça raconte l'histoire d'un anthropologue qui cherche son père disparu pendant la guerre civile guatémaltèque. Jusqu'au moment où il y a une femme indienne qui vient le voir et qui lui demande de l'aide pour déterrer son mari. Et à travers ses périples dans ces villages, il va découvrir que son histoire personnelle est beaucoup plus compliquée de ce qu'il pense, non? Pour moi, ce qui était important aussi dans ce film, c'était la possibilité que la science vous donne une réponse par rapport aux disparus. C'est-à-dire qu'à un moment donné, quand vous êtes victime de ça et que vous attendez votre être cher, qui peut être votre mari, votre mère, votre frère, et qu'à un moment donné, la science vous dit, bah, en fait, ces os, c'est votre mari, ou c'est votre être cher. À partir de là, vous pouvez envisager la possibilité du deuil. Avant ça, vous êtes dans un espace douloureux qui ne vous permet pas de le faire. Et je pense que c'est ça aussi que je voulais montrer dans les films. Et vous allez vous demander pourquoi tout ça a à voir avec la confiance. Et je pense qu'il y a 2 choses. Je pense que la confiance est aussi le lien que j'ai créé un jour avec ces femmes qui m'ont raconté leur histoire et qui m'ont fait confiance pour qu'un jour je puisse raconter ce qui leur est arrivé. Et moi, j'ai posé la confiance en elles qu'on pouvait faire les films. Et donc, je pense que ce lien-là, il est indestructible aujourd'hui. Et surtout, je pense que pour moi, les plus tristes au Guatemala, c'est l'absence de dialogue. On n'est pas obligé d'être d'accord, mais je pense qu'on est obligé de s'asseoir autour d'une table et de discuter. Discuter de nos blessures, discuter de qu'est-ce qu'on fait. Et c'est un peu les questions que le film pose, c'est-à-dire, moi, je n'ai pas de réponse. Moi, j'ai des questions que je voudrais partager. Qu'est-ce qu'on fait avec nos morts? Comment on fait le deuil? Comment on se réconcilie? Comment on soigne nos blessures? Et donc, c'est ce que j'essaie de faire à travers des films. Et je pense qu'on part d'une histoire individuelle vers une histoire collective, et c'est finalement le chemin que les pays devraient faire. On devrait faire tous ensemble. Et je pense que le cinéma aussi est un art qui nous permet d'atteindre des gens d'une façon émotionnelle. C'est quelque chose c'est pas juste des histoires, c'est quelque chose qui vient des plus profonds et qui nous permet d'avoir ces dialogues avec les sujets spectateurs, qui nous permet d'imaginer, de rêver, de créer un imaginaire, il y a un peu de fantasme. Ça permet au spectateur de se représenter lui-même dans un miroir. Et c'est ça que j'avais envie de faire aussi. Et pour revenir à la confiance, moi je voudrais avoir confiance dans l'État. Je voudrais avoir la confiance dans l'État guatémaltèque pour rendre justice. Et je pense que c'est la première pierre pour pouvoir reconstruire les tissus sociaux qui nous manquent tant. Et je voudrais avoir confiance dans l'État pour qu'il me protège, pour qu'il protège ma famille, pour qu'il protège les gens qui me sont chers, pour qu'il protège ma maison. Et le problème, c'est qu'aujourd'hui, cette confiance dans l'État, elle est rompue, et il faut qu'on la reconstruise, tous ensemble aussi. Et je voudrais encore aller plus loin. Moi, j'aimerais bien qu'à travers des films et d'autres moyens, on ait confiance dans l'autre, c'est-à-dire l'autre comme un compatriote, comme quelqu'un qui partage la même histoire avec vous, comme quelqu'un avec lequel on peut marcher ensemble. Et le problème, c'est notre peur. Notre peur qui nous empêche de faire ses pas vers l'autre. Et je pense qu'au Guatemala, on a peur des gangs, du voisin, de la rue, et que finalement, cette peur-là, la seule chose qu'il fait, c'est engendrer de la violence. Et donc, pour terminer, je pense que pour moi, les films, c'est un peu résister à l'oubli, C'est recréer du tissu social et poser des questions sur la table qui nous permettent de créer cet espace de dialogue et ainsi reconstruire la paix et surtout reconstruire un tissu social qui nous manque autant. Donc, merci beaucoup et j'espère que vous allez le voir.
Merci, Oscar. Oh, César. Mais il va gagner un Oscar. Si tu gagnes un Oscar, tu l'amènes ici. On a déjà eu un Oscar à l'ONU. I'll be switching back to English. Dina Alami is from Sweden. She grew up in a marginalized area of suburban Stockholm, and witnessing the results of deadly violence and its effects on herself and her surrounding community has given her passion for peace and security. Now she works to build bridges between youth and politicians, together with Sweden's youth civil society organization, Frisusset. Please welcome Dina.
Thank you. Thank you. We all want to be a part of something. We all want to feel a sense of coherence, right? Whether it's a basketball team, a chess team, or a dance crew. When you are young and trying to find yourself, you need the access to positive environments so you can explore. Because if you don't, you will start to look for coherence somewhere else. And you might find it somewhere a lot more destructive, where you meet other angry, disappointed, and sometimes even desperate young people that feel like they have no hope in the future. And feeling hopeless is a very dangerous place to be in, especially if it happens to a group of young people. To feel like you have nothing to lose means you could do anything just to feel that you belong somewhere. I had a friend that was one of these young people seeking a sense of belonging. His name was Oliver. And unfortunately, he found a destructive way of life that eventually got him killed. I first met Oliver when we were 14 years old and just started 8th grade together. He was smart, funny, and always had new ideas on how to save the world. He loved hip-hop and would always analyze every single word from every Tupac song that existed. Except being seen and heard, like all of us need, Oliver also needed a school that had the resources to meet him halfway, or someone who could guide him when he got his ADHD diagnosis, so he could feel like a normal kid. And most importantly, he needed a social welfare authority that took his mother's worrying reports seriously, because she did plenty of them. But to me, Oliver was a star. He excelled in many things and was without any doubt the best in our class of math. He was also so good at athletics that he became one of Sweden's best sprinters born 1996. But Oliver didn't even make it till his 21st birthday. He was found shot and killed in the middle of the day, 2 blocks from his home. His ADHD made him feel like he felt different from others, and he was constantly searching for his identity. And when he didn't think he could cope with school in the way people expected him to, the temptation to make money in other ways became too big. There he found friends who, just like him, were seeking to fit in. With them, he felt good. With them, he felt appreciated. And once you're in it, it's hard to get out. Oliver's destiny made me want to be a part of a change. It led me to work with how to make young people feel more included in our society and how we can build trust between each other. Last year, I became an ambassador for Sweden's largest youth organization, Frisusset. I was one of 8 young people from suburbs all over Sweden who got the opportunity to participate in the biggest annual political week we have. We got to take parts of panels, debate, and engage in questions about us. And for the first time, we felt represented. For the first time, the decision makers were talking to us, with us, and not just about us when it comes to our future. Because who else knows what we need and the reality we face better than we ourselves? When Oliver lost his life, he was seen as just a number in the statistics, and the news wouldn't even mention his name, just like so many other boys killed before him. However, just recently, 2 young women were killed by gun violence in Sweden. One of them were killed in a wealthy area where nobody expected such a crime to even happen, and that was the tipping point. Finally, politicians are calling it out for what the gun violence really is, a national crisis, and are now making plans for how to make it all stop. But that's also a part of the problem. The fact that no one expects shooting to happen in those areas, only in certain areas of Sweden, means that not all of us are equally safe. Perhaps the first thing you think about when you think of Sweden is that it's a place of equality and equal opportunities, or a strong support system for those in need. And that's all mostly true, at least if you belong to the 94% of our population. The remaining 6% live in what has been labeled as a marginalized community, where the reality is something else. Rate of violence, unemployment, social exclusion, and poverty that are higher than the rest of Sweden. I grew up in one of these areas. So did Oliver. The death shootings in our communities has in the last 10 years increased by 500%. That means that a whole generation has lived through a time where it's 5 times more likely to get shot. This fact makes us one of the countries with the highest amount of death shootings per capita in the entire Europe, and by far the highest in the north. And I believe the biggest reason behind those numbers and why this is happening is the broken trust between the 6% and the rest of society. Our communities have become segregated due to people not feeling included in what should be a system, supposed to be a system for everyone. And as a result, we have formed parallel societies where we think in terms of we and them, rather than forming a society where we live as one. When a shooting is happening, it happens to the 6%, and not all of Sweden. But the violence isn't, nor has it ever been, dependent on one person. It depends on the failure of a whole society to keep each other safe. What we see in the news is that if you're one of us, society talks about you as a problem, never with you as a part of the solution. Our brothers, neighbors, and classmates are only noticed when they have committed a crime. So how can you trust a society where you're always made out to be the bad one? How could you trust a society that never recognizes all the good you do? It's only when you feel like you can trust a society that you want to become a part of it and also work to make it better. Because of this picture media has been building up, people are afraid to even come visit us. I used to think that my voice and experiences were not something that our decision makers and politicians wanted to hear. Not anymore. Now, I feel empowered to stand on a stage like this and talk about the issue we are facing, because I also do see the solutions. What needs to happen is that Sweden have to listen to us, listen to our stories and experiences, and take them seriously. We, who are affected by this violence must be included in creating sustainable solutions. And that even involves the boys with the guns. Their perspective needs to be included as well, so people will understand better what made them take a path that could only lead to hurt, loss, and trauma. And last but not least, we need to come together and face these challenges as a united Sweden, as 100% this time. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dina, for reminding us about the importance of youth in building peace. And it's great to see so many young people in our audience today. I'm now pleased to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Mo Ibrahim. Dr. Ibrahim is the founder and chairman of the Mo Ibrahim Foundation, which he created to support good governance and exceptional leadership in Africa. He has a very distinguished business career and has founded many companies in Africa and around the world. Today, he will speak with Scott Weber, who is the president of Interpeace, one of the world's leading peacebuilding organizations. Scott has over 20 years of peacebuilding experience, both at Interpeace and at the United Nations. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Ibrahim and Scott Weber to the stage.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Mo.
Thank you for having me.
It's a great honor to have you with us.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Peace Talks.
The honor is mine. Thank you.
Yes. And on the theme of trust matters. Mo, it's a great honor to have you with us, really. You have such a breadth of experience across business, philanthropy, and your passion today, which is the promotion of good governance. And especially, I think, throughout it all, the promotion of ethical and reasonable leadership in the world, not just in Africa, but around the world. I think you'll agree with me, Mo, that we are facing a profound crisis of trust in the world today. Trust in our institutions, trust in our political systems, our economic systems, trust in each other, and trust in our leadership. We have a leadership crisis. How would you describe that crisis, and what kind of leadership do we need to meet the challenges of today and the ones we're going to be facing in the future?
Well, it is a very, very serious problem, Scott, I believe. And we look around us. I mean, for a number of years, I was trying to focus on Africa. I thought we have a lot of issues in Africa. And then I found that the ground is breaking under us in Europe also. And the problem of governance, which I used to think of essentially as an African issue, actually it is a global issue. My second home is UK, and it's a total mess. Today we have we are in court, because you don't know, we are in court today, and the High Court is trying to find out or mediate between the executive branch and the parliament. The executive branch wants to close down the parliament, and the parliament says there is important things going on here. Why you close our voice? I mean, you talk about sovereignty. Whose sovereignty? And it is very sad. Who would have thought that what's claimed to be the oldest democracy in the world will end up in court and trying to sort out this constitutional crisis. In France, we had the yellow vests, this big crisis, total misunderstanding between the governments and government and the people, lack of communication, lack of trust. And even though the initial cause of the protest was dealt with, protests continued, and they actually became violent even. Uh, then I'll not even talk about United States. I mean, it's obvious what's going on there. But all around us, we can see the rise of strong men. Suddenly, it became very fashionable. We thought that was fashionable in the early 1900s. We used to fall in love with strong men around us, and we saw the rise of fascism and all its different forms. And now we see a trend, strong men are rising, allowing us, thumping the table and make my country great again. My country is supreme. It's me first and don't care. And that starts to spread like fire everywhere. We look around, and even in Europe, which claim it has its European values system, we see what's happening in Poland, we see what's happening in Hungary, and we say, what is the sense of values there? Turkey, Russia. I can just keep counting. I mean, in Africa, I had also a few people who look at what's going on in the Philippines and Russia and the White House and say, oh, me too. And I just don't know how some sectors of our population fall in love with those kind of people, because they have a constituency. They have a constituency. They came to power by vote. And I don't need to remind you that Hitler came to power democratically.
Sure.
Yeah? And so what is happening? What's happening about liberal democracy? What is producing, and what is going on?
So what form of leadership do we need to get out of this mess?
We need a totally different leadership. Clearly, we are failing the people. And what happened, I think, in politics is we became extremely short-sighted, extremely short-term. We have these rapid cycles of election. And you get elected, you have a grace period of 1 year to do whatever you want to do, and then the honeymoon is finished, and you start to prepare to the next election. And people just care about grabbing votes. What grab votes I offer? Most likely in Western society, I'm going to reduce your taxes. Okay, I'm going to put more money in your pockets. At a time when actually everybody complains about inequality. How are we going to cut taxes and still deal with inequality? There is a contradiction in terms here. We talk about universal health care, which under strain because of funding. State pension schemes in Europe are all broken. Are all broken. They are bankrupt. Nobody will admit that, but they are bankrupt. People need to remember that pensions was invented when the average span of life was less than 70 years. And the economists said, okay, you retire at 60 years, you're going to live for 20 years, we're going to deal with that. Now, you live for average span of life is 83, 84. Who's going to fund that? And this longer span of life means actually we're going to have a lot more hip replacements, knee replacements, heart replacement. I mean, because as you grow old, frankly, we need a lot of spare parts to sort you out. And who's funding this? Yeah. So we never had the courage to be honest with our people. You know, the politician never been honest in talking to our people about the issues. And everybody comes just offering tax cuts and then blaming others for whatever problem we have. European Union is a very good example. That was the scapegoat. Every country blames European Union for their own failings. Absolutely. And then you end up with another institution here which is breaking down. European Union is in danger because everybody, I mean, I asked David Cameron, how could you, they had this referendum in UK about Brexit, yeah? All our politicians in UK spend their political life trashing the European Union. Then suddenly we have a referendum. Then they need to stand up and defend the European Union. How could you defend the European Union? You have been trashing it all your life.
Right.
So all what you could say is, oh, but I know what, it's awful, I know, but without, getting out is worse, actually.
Right.
Is a problem. And of course, the other guy said, oh, this is Project Fear. You have nothing good to say other than frightening us from the alternative, which is a negative way to go.
There's a parallel in Africa that we've seen as well, this attack on civil society, for example. There's a shrinking of the space for civil society in many countries in Africa today, with those same leaders trashing civil society as being the tools of foreign powers. You have a very privileged position to be able to engage directly with heads of state. They listen to you, some of them, and you're very honest with them. You're a very clear and honest sharer of your wisdom. What do you tell them? How do you confront them about that phenomenon where they're trying to close that political space?
This has been a big problem because I don't know if you're aware, many African countries have actually banned the civil society group from receiving any funds from abroad.
Exactly.
If you receive money from Ford Foundation or from whoever, and you get a gift, you will be classified as a foreign agent. Suddenly it's like you are a spy because you got foreign aid. And I found that so obscene because, and I tell our friends in governments, you, Mr. President, I mean, you spend half your life running around in Europe, United States, begging for money. And you receive foreign aid and foreign money. Right. So are you a foreign agent? I mean, why is it fine for you as a country, as a president, to go and beg for foreign money and you are okay? But when civil society receives a little bit of money, oh, you are a foreign agent. Let's be consistent. It's stupid. And of course, they limit the ability of the civil society to work. And I had a lot of arguments with people. Sometimes people claim, oh, one president say, Mo, this is not really civil society. These are political opponents.
Right, right.
We say, why you are political opponents? Oh, see this organization, this is a guy trying to start an election, and this is, and we said, okay, let us just try to reach some understanding here. It is true, sometimes civil society is used as a political vehicle. And that's why we trying to sort out a charter for civil society, that we should not behave, we are like an ambulance in a battlefield. We have a big Red Cross on our organizations as civil society. If the government do something good, we'll praise the government and help her.
Right.
If the government do something wrong, we say that is wrong. That's the role of civil society. Is not a political, because civil society is not seeking power. NGOs doesn't seek power. We're not a political party. So that's something we need to do on us. At the same time, because that gives excuse to some of our interesting leaders to attack civil society, because they are, they are political enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so both sides have to behave.
Right.
And we say, guys, let us talk together and reach some kind of a charter, but remove these draconian effects or procedures.
Now, you are one of the most successful business leaders on the planet. And yet, I understand that when you were young, you were quite mistrustful of the business sector.
This is true.
You were quite hesitant to get involved in the business sector.
This is true.
So first of all, what changed? And second of all, what is the role of trust in business, in the private sector? Is it a central feature, or is it something to...
Yeah, I came from a family which we didn't have businessmen or businesswomen in my family. And, And so I always mistrusted business people. I thought they are essentially some kind of thieves or criminals, which may be true in a way. And so
Present company excluded.
I'll come to that. So anyway, I ended up being an accidental business. I didn't mean to be a businessman.
Oh.
I ended up accidentally being a businessman because I hated working for a large company. I decided to have my freedom. I'm a consultant, and then too much work, then I have more people, then suddenly I have a huge company. And so it was not, honestly, I never dreamt or planned to be.
Happy accident.
Yeah, well, fair enough. But so that is a position. But one thing interesting, when I got into business, and I came to know other business leaders, actually there is a lot of wonderful business people around. Let me tell you about the B team. Did you hear about something called the B team, letter B? B team. Anybody heard about that? Raise your hand.
Oh, there's one.
One person. Oh.
Yes.
It's really unfortunate. Okay. The B team is a group of CEOs of companies worldwide, and they came to recognize that plan A for business is not working. Business for profit, only for profit, doesn't work. Business has to work really for the environment and for the people and for the profit. That there must be a new mission for business. And to my surprise, this group, when we started 3 or 4 years ago, went up with a huge number. I mean, I can tell you the names of, you will not believe. We have some of the best top business people in India, in China, in the United States, really big companies. You check our website. What the group is doing, which is very interesting, is it is not preaching anything to anybody. It's saying we have to set the example. Ourselves, we have to implement this agenda, and then we have the right to preach to people. Our agenda based on, first, anti-corruption. And we're campaigning very hard also to eliminate anonymous companies. These are the companies where beneficial ownerships are not known. This is a major problem for a lot, especially for us in Africa. This is where dictators and criminals put their money, and nobody can trace it. In Switzerland, you know about this. And
that's finished.
Okay.
That's finished.
Okay. Okay. Actually, United States has more anonymous companies than Panama and Paradise Island. Anyway, that's another issue. But the Congress is looking at this now. That's something we managed Britain. They have a law in Britain, European Union. They started to move. Human rights and slavery, not in the companies, but also in all supply chains. That something must be respected. Then carbon. Each company must produce a plan to show how it's going to comply with net zero. And that's we're working on. So gender issues, inequality. So people put a number of guidelines, and any CEO signing up, joining must sign up and audit what they're doing in that direction. These are big companies. There is Dow Chemicals, there is Pepsi, there is Unilever, there is Alliance, what's called Alliance, there is Virgin Group, there is Tata Group in India, there is some Chinese companies. These are a lot of big CEOs around the world coming and saying we do that. So the business is changing. The recent round table of the American CEOs, there's some 150 people go there, for the first time said the purpose of business is not just profit for the shareholders. It is also community and employees. So things are changing. Business people can be for, but that is important because our society is fractured now. And we need to heal. We need to bring all those people together. And people need to think long term, not short term. And that's the problem. Actually, I can see contradiction between the new generation and us old people. which is another issue. I don't know if we have time to raise it, but yeah.
Well, in fact, my last question to you is that we are, the young people today are the most connected generation ever.
Yeah.
They live in the digital world about as much as they live in the physical world. Our systems of governance are not adapted to help them participate in governance in society. We need to adapt those. It's creating a lot of frustrations, but a lot of opportunities too, to innovate. But we're also, just a few days ago, we marked the 18th anniversary of 9/11. And that means that there's a generation of young people now who are young adults, 18 years old, including my own daughter, who's 18 years old, who have grown up only in a post-9/11 world, who live in a world full of uncertainty, or with the only certainty being that tomorrow is not going to be as good as yesterday.
Yeah.
And yet, the opportunities are there if we have the courage and the leadership that you're promoting so effectively to change our systems. Now, what is your message, your parting message to the youth in the room in particular, about the future, about their role in shaping the new system?
Yeah, we have a very interesting difference of views in that in the West in general, which has been very prosperous after the Second World War, people are afraid of a change. People think that their life, what they had, the children will not have. Right. They're worried about their job, they're worried, so they are absolutely worried about any change. This is why you have the yellow vest and anybody else.
They feel like they're losing something.
Exactly, because they think they are on a slide.
Right.
In our areas in Africa, it's the opposite. Young people want to change because what they see is rotten, and they want to change that. So there is two different sets of fears, let us say, or wishes there. But my general message to the young people, it is your world, it's not us. So stop listening to us. Not to start with, because let us be honest, we have abused this planet, abused this society. It's done, okay? We don't have any much more to say or to do for you. Now, it is your future, I'm not gonna leave it here. I'm gonna be not be living when this planet gets out of control. I'll not be here. I'll be laughing in my grave, you know? Well, I'll be crying maybe for you. But it is your future. You need to organize, you need to act, you need to vote. Something very disturbing happened in UK. When we had the referendum, which is a very essential thing for us, all the people above 6 years old, over 90% went and voted. 60 years old and above, 90% voted. And you know what they voted for? Rule Britannia, the past, which they never repeat again. Young people, very low turnout.
Right.
After the result, all the young people demonstrating in the streets. So my message to you, please, go and vote. It's much easier than going out, spending all day demonstrating out there. Use your power and vote, change the system, force what you want to do, and just lose respect for us. Go and do it. Because it's your future, it's not ours. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ibrahim and Scott Weber, for those valuable insights and good sound bits. I don't think I've ever had a speaker who said, "Stop listening to me." But we've heard from a businessman. We've heard from a grassroots peacemaker. We've heard from a filmmaker. All important for building peace. All important for building this trust, this harmony that actually peace is seeking. What else expresses peace more and harmony more than music? Poshoshak, the wonderful duo that you're about to hear, mixes South African sounds with those of the rest of Africa and worldwide. Thanks to their outstanding and inspiring music for peace, we're pleased to welcome Estelle and Conrad Hughes up onto the stage. And please give them a warm welcome to Pososha.
Qui t'a envoyé sur ce bateau pour travailler. Et si parfois tu rêves de ta terre, quand tu fais tes prières, que tu dis, oh Dieu, que ma femme, mes filles, mes fils, n'oublie pas qui je suis. To my life, to me, où es-tu passé sur ce bateau pour travailler? Même si le monde respire ton absence, le temps avance. C'est vrai, c'est l'argent que tu envoies parfois qui nous rappelle ici que tu es loin, si loin, et tu peines pour nous, et tu me langues, papa, tu peines pour nous. L'argent vraiment emprisonné, emprisonné. To me, oh, to me, oh, to me, oh. Personne t'attend même plus. Hey, et tu me langues, bateau déposé. Hey, tu sens le sable sous tes pieds, sous tes pieds. Tu sais bien que tu ne partiras plus, non, non, loin, loin à perte de vue. Longtemps pour avoir suivi ce rêve de ces longues années. L'agent vraiment emprisonné par amour, emprisonné. To me, oh, to me, oh, to me, oh. Ta femme t'attend même plus. To me, oh, to me, oh, to me, oh. L'agent du blanc empoisonné, empoisonné. To me, oh, to me, oh, to me, oh. Ton soleil ne brille plus. Merci. This song that we just sang in French is about the plight of migrants who decide to leave their homes because there's no money there. And then they come to a new place, miss their family, to a new place where they are not trusted, where they are not integrated. Itumeleng. Now, we're going to sing you a song about the forgotten children of Africa. Azi is in Lingala, a language of Congo. And before we start, I want just to say hi to my friend Junior Zita, who's over there, fighting for peace in DRC, helping child soldiers, former child soldiers. Can we give him a round of applause, Junior? Great to see you here. Right. The children of Congo and the children of other parts of Africa need to be trusted. They need to be trusted because they are the future and they are the ones who are going to end the era of aid and transform it, thanks to education, into an era of success. Azi. I need to hear you clap. Azi mwananga ye wapio. Follow, follow, follow. Azi mwananga ye wapio. Yeah. Follow, follow, follow. Malembe, malembe, malembe. Yeah. Oh, tiki biso, hey, oh, tiki biso. Yeah. Follow, follow, follow. Malembe, malembe, malembe. Yeah. Hey. Follow, follow, follow. Hey. Follow, follow, follow. Azi mwananga ye yakako Eva. Fly follower, fly follower. Fly follower, fly follower. Fly follower, fly follower. Fly follower, fly follower. Yeba. Ooh, le oiseau. Ooh, le mananga. Ooh, le oiseau. Ooh, le mananga. Ooh, le oiseau. Ooh, le mananga. Yeah. There is someone else that I would like to honor today, on this day devoted to the notion of trust. As an educator, I'm always so proud to see my former students becoming agents of peace. So I want to give my thoughts, my energy to my former students from Zimbabwe, Farirai Bonsvanda, who's done so much for children in our country. We're with you as you're fighting for your freedom. Go, Fraz. Let's go. Ooh, le oiseau. Ooh, le mwananga. Ooh, le oiseau. Ooh, le mwananga. Yeah. Get away. Hey, Yeba. My flower, okay. Now let me mama, na sali ma bete, na sali ma bete. Mama Maria, hey.
Great. Thank you so much, PeaceTalks, for your beautiful music, and we'll hear one last song from them at the end of our event today. But before that, I'm very pleased to introduce our next speaker, Antje Herberg. Antje is a leading mediator, teacher, and peacemaking coach, and she's dedicated her life to overcome divisions through the facilitation of dialogue. She is also focused on the psychological aspects of international conflict resolution. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Antje to the stage.
Well, I could begin with a war story, but that would be a little bit too obvious here at the United Nations. So I would like you to imagine a cliff. And on the side of that cliff, there's a tree. And on that tree, there's a branch. And you're hanging from that branch. And you don't know what to do. What do you feel like? Panic, fear, anger, desperation, and eventually maybe exhaustion. That's what it feels like to some when you are in conflict. And I was in such a situation when I was 10 years old. And I was hanging on that branch, and the branch broke, and I fell on a rock, and I was unable to move, and I called for help. And I called for help, and I called for help. And eventually, help came. Now, I healed from the injuries of that fall, but it impacted for a lifetime my ability to deal with trust issues. And that is why trust matters so much in my work as a mediator. I'm a peace mediator, and the main currency of my work is trust. Trust is an attitude. It refers to a willingness of how I would like to hand over my authority of my interests to somebody else. Now, what is mediation? Mediation is how a third party works with conflict parties to find a solution that's acceptable to all. It does work when you are able to find a common ground to create areas of cooperation that actually create trust. Now, peace mediation is amplified in its complexity because it involves more parties and it is more grievances. It costs many lives, and it causes devastation. So if trust is the currency of mediation, how do you create it? Actually, trust is within all of us. We are born with an innate ability to trust, and this innate ability to trust is given to us by our parents and ancestors. Let's call it ancient trust. That ancient trust is that capital that we bring in our life, and it grows and shrinks with our life, in our life. And when we have accidents in our life, it shrinks. And the mediator's role thus is then to make it grow again. So how do you do that? What does it feel like when you're in high-intensity conflict? You would like to have somebody strong, decisive, with a lot of authority, somebody who can pull strings who can get you out of this situation, who can get you what you want right now. Quite masculine. And then what happens in a very simplified way is that you make many rounds to negotiate an agreement. The rules of that agreement, which are a trust-making exercise in itself, form the institutions for the future. The donors are lining up to maybe fund those institutions for the future. You have a grand signatory event. And then afterwards, you have peacekeeping or monitoring of that peace agreement. And then, actually, many peace agreements do not succeed in delivering what they said they would. Why? Maybe it is because that trust is being taken care of in a transactional, political, and maybe legal sense, but that's not enough. What is needed is that we are able to go beyond that agreement, but we're building a process that can build the trust for the future. And very often, it is much more important of what is not being said in an agreement than what is being said, and that is what we're working with. So let me offer for you as peacemakers maybe 5 ways of how you can create trust working in conflict. The first one is to decelerate. Decelerate to give people a space not to run away, but to cognitively actually understand about what is going on. You give a space. You give a space for creativity, a space for telling stories, listening to each other. And by giving that space, you also create this process, a direction for the future. How do you create that direction for the future and that space is by actually asking the question not only what they want, but what they actually do need. And by doing that, you create a process, a structure, and you are the guardian of that process as a mediator. Hope. Peace mediation is not for pessimists. It is not even for realists. You must give hope to the people you're working with, hope for the future. That requires even a lot of innate leadership in yourself, a lot of discipline and determination. You can't let go of people hoping for peace. And lastly, you need to know yourself. You need to be guided by your inner compass of what you can and what you cannot do, of what works with you and what doesn't work with you. If you lose that inner compass of yours, you will no longer be in your own reality, but the reality of someone else, and you will lose the process. Be true to yourself. Remember that branch? You can let it go now. Everything will be fine. Just trust. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anchi. And let us all walk away with that hope for the future. And let's not forget about listening and looking at that inner compass. Now, we're going to learn about building trust, also with a gender approach, within the police service in Colombia. For this, I'll be switching to Spanish. So if you don't, si no me entienden, put your headset on. La coronel Lorangeli Franco es miembro de la Policía Nacional de Colombia. Está trabajando para desarrollar el enfoque de género y construir la confianza y la paz dentro de la Policía Nacional. Por favor, den una cálida bienvenida a Lorangeli.
Buenas tardes. Bueno, la violencia en mi país se ha dado por generaciones. El impacto que tuvo en el servicio de policía se vio reflejado en la necesidad de las instituciones en intervenir para recobrar precisamente el Estado social de derecho y garantizar los derechos y las libertades de los ciudadanos. En este contexto, muchos historiadores hablan de que la guerra en Colombia da inicio a partir de esas necesidades insatisfechas, pero especialmente por el uso de la tierra. Y es en estos territorios alejados donde nosotros empezamos a construir un nuevo futuro. Sin embargo, grupos armados ilegales lo que han desarrollado es zozobra y violencia, violencia que se ha visto reflejada desde 1948 con lo que nosotros llamamos el Bogotazo, donde se crean los grupos armados ilegales. Es de allí que nosotros, desafortunadamente, tenemos más de 8,5 millones de víctimas del conflicto armado, víctimas directas. De estos 8 millones de víctimas, en estos momentos más de 62,000 son miembros de la policía, mujeres y hombres que han enfrentado estos grupos armados ilegales. En el territorio, lo que nosotros veíamos en el servicio de policía rural eran nuestros hombres armados y preparados para combatir la guerra, pero no con otra visión diferente de ir a construir escenarios de paz. Eso significó y se generaron las necesidades para que la policía se repensara y empezáramos a cambiar frente a unas nuevas dinámicas de país. Después de un proceso de paz largo, aunque en Colombia ya han existido más de 5 procesos de paz en los que las comunidades esperaban a la autoridad. Sin embargo, no es fácil. Cuando llegamos a estos territorios y, por ejemplo, como mujer embestida de autoridad, causamos admiración. Pero son escenarios culturales, patriarcales, en los que no es fácil frente a la cultura enfrentarse a estos nuevos escenarios. ¿Y cómo transformar esos escenarios para que los conflictos no se tornaran violentos? Fue un desafío en la construcción de confianza. Iniciamos un proceso con más de 129,000 policías a través de una encuesta y muchas mesas de trabajo en los que permitieron construir un modelo, el modelo de construcción de paz de la Policía Nacional. Y a partir de esto empezamos a generar modelos de modernización y transformación institucional que nos han permitido generar unos nuevos escenarios en estos territorios alejados del país. Cuando uno habla de un territorio alejado, piensa, qué sé yo, estoy a 2 horas, 3 horas de camino, pero no es así. Si estamos en la ciudad, tenemos que tomar avión, seguramente coger un vehículo que nos va a transportar hasta una vereda y hasta donde sea carreteable, pero de ahí muchas veces tenemos que caminar horas, atravesar un río y llegar a donde hay muchos niños y niñas y comunidades con demasiadas necesidades. Pero, ¿cuál es el secreto de la confianza? Antes de decírselo, quiero compartirles que lo primero es creer en uno mismo, creer en lo que hacemos, pero construir para llegar a nuestros objetivos. Y eso no es un paso a paso, sino son ejercicios de reconocimiento que permitan que esas acciones se conviertan con las otras comunidades en una cercanía. A través de esos escenarios es como los adolescentes podrían decir, ¿le darías la mano a la persona que te cae mal? O ustedes a los que piensan que son sus enemigos, pero si esos enemigos hicieron daño y ellos también, esos enemigos te consideran tu enemigo, Entonces, no es fácil. Y el primer paso fue romper el hielo a través de una mano, de estrechar un abrazo, de brindar una taza de café, pero con el temor también de saber si se recibe o no se recibe. Y aquí empezamos a comprender las diferencias, esas diferencias que nos hacen únicos, pero aquí no se trata de religión, no se trata de raza, no se trata de identidad de género, se trata que todos somos seres humanos y que como seres humanos tenemos derechos y nosotros como autoridad debemos respetar esos derechos. Y comprender las situaciones nos llevó a entender que ponerse los zapatos en el lugar del otro era una oportunidad también para recobrar esa confianza. Y también nos llevó a reconocer procesos de transformación de conflictos donde se empoderan a las comunidades. Hay comunidades alejadas como las comunidades indígenas en las que ellos tienen su justicia propia, pero en el marco de esa justicia propia, hoy en día nos reciben a nosotros como sus aliados, sus amigos, pero en especial casi que como sus profesores en los temas de convivencia. Y realmente es muy significativo saber que hemos contribuido a recobrar también la cultura de ellos, porque lo importante aquí es no perder la cultura y la identidad que tiene cada una de esas comunidades. Y pues bueno, el secreto de la confianza realmente está en tener una relación genuina que se traduce en acciones. Y en ese camino, realmente quiero seguir aportando para comprender que esa nueva relación de confianza hay que hacerlo bien, hay que aceptar las oportunidades que se presentan. Esas oportunidades que se presentan también a través de las diferencias se deben hacer de una manera transparente, inclusiva y responsable. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Lorangeli, por recordarnos que la creación de la confianza es de todos. I'll now switch back to English. We now have a duo, Zainab Nanja from Uganda and Salama Ibrahim from Nigeria. They're both passionate young leaders in their respective communities, working with Generations for Peace, one of our partners today. They will share their efforts in building trust. Please give them a warm welcome.
Good evening, all. My name is Salama Ibrahim, a Generations for Peace volunteer in Nigeria. And speaking with me is...
Good evening to you all. My name is Zainab Nancha. I come from Uganda. I'm a lead volunteer for Generations for Peace, and I'm excited to be standing right in front of you and just humbled for the fact that I'm one of the speakers for this great event. To me, trust simply means the willingness and ability of an individual to work with others and having a feeling of safety as you work with others. And in this very context, what I mean by others is to do with people coming from different backgrounds. It can be in terms of religion, it can be in terms of tribe, it can be in terms of races. Mention it.
I'd like to look at this year's Team Trust Matters from two angles. My first angle is taken from our local Nigerian Pidgin English context, where the Team Trust Matters can be pronounced as trust matter, meaning issues of trust. For me, I see these issues of trust as the flint that is used to create the spark that fans the flame of conflict. My second angle is actually an angle that I believe that so many of us share here, which is that trust matters. Trust is a very vital pillar in building sustainable peace, either in a family, in a community, or a society.
Talking about family, I would like to give my personal experience basing on the fact that it's to do with the family. Most of us who are here, we know that in Uganda, polygamy is legal, whereby a man can marry more than one wife at a time, which I believe is quite different in other parts of the world. I grew up from a polygamous family. My own father had 2 wives. And it so happened that I grew up with a stepmother, and this stepmother of mine wasn't actually, she treated me like her own daughter. And my father strived so hard to ensure that the 2 families really lived harmoniously. However, things changed when I was 12 years old. And it so happened that my own father ignored the fact that I was his own daughter. He only prioritized my stepbrothers and sisters in terms of basic needs, education, and so many others. So life was so hard to my side. It was very hard and very challenging, and it really affected me till the end of my studies.
Talking about the roles of fathers in the lives of their children, my father actually was one who built trust in us. He taught us to trust people despite their religion or ethnical background. And that went on for a long time. All this changed in the year 2000 in Kaduna State when we had the biggest crisis ever, religious crisis, where I lost an uncle in the crisis, and a lot of other people died. Actually, it was reported that almost 5,000 people were killed in that single crisis. The crisis created a divide, a relationship gap, sort of, between Christians and Muslims in my state. And I had to deal with the feelings of the sadness from the loss of my uncle. And I also had to deal with fear arising from now the physical divide we had in the state. Christians that lived in Muslim-dominated areas actually had to relocate back to where they had more Christians, where they could feel safe. And then Muslims that lived in Christian-dominated areas had to move to places where there were more Muslims so that they could feel safe. So those feelings lingered on with me for quite some time.
Just to compare to my own personal experience, I had a feeling of fear, a feeling of resentment and mistrust, whereby it really affected my way of living. I was worried of any kind of relationships I had to make just because of the fear that I had. And I kept asking myself, I kept having questions. If my own father betrayed the trust and confidence I had in him, then who wouldn't? So I really didn't trust anyone at all. Not until I got an opportunity in 2008 to attend the Generations for Peace camp, and it aimed at promoting peace using sport. So as I attended the camp, I kept on wondering, would I be able to go back home and pass on this message to my fellow people within my local context? I asked so many questions, but I looked back, and I was like, it all had to start with me. I had to break the long-held stereotypes and myths and be able to work with the others in my local community and plan with them the programs. And in 2014, I really had to start up a program whereby we use sport and art as a tool to foster cooperation and build trust among the youth from different religious denominations.
Though I had stereotyped Muslims for a long time, a part of me actually longed for a normal relationship, for things to go back to the way they used to be, where Christians and Muslims lived together and shared meals together and had fun together. That longing in me led me to be part of a peace-building program that started with an advocacy for peace training organized by Generations for Peace, where I had an opportunity to work with youths in an interreligious group of youths from different religions and different backgrounds. Working with these youths helped me to see things differently. It helped me to understand that not all Muslims are the same, one, and that life in a Muslim residential area was really normal. It's not like it's a ground waiting for Christians. People are just there waiting for Christians and just to kill them or anything. But it's actually normal. So my experience with working with these youths really changed my life and gave me a new perspective to life.
I also, working again and again with the youth within my local community, I got to realize the fact that it was possible to work with others. Because depending on the way they were behaving during the programs, opening up, trusting each other, I also realized it was possible, and I carried on the programs, and it also changed my life. I got to see, I gained trust after working with those youth.
I strongly believe that peaceful coexistence is possible, but to take a lot of effort and a lot of investment in bringing people across their divides. And then I stand here today as a living testimony that it is possible to build bridges, but only when trust is restored.
Yeah, in fact, our diversity is just an established fact. And we all know, we are all here in this room, we come from different backgrounds, and we are all sitting here, but we only need to open up. We only need to trust each other, accept each other, however much we are different. On that note, the two of us, as you see us here, we are different in a way. We come from different cultures, different countries, we are of different religions, but we have been able to stand right in front of you and present to you just because we trust each other and we are able to present this evening. So I do highly believe that if we trust each other, and even to everyone who is listening to this outside this room, if we do build trust among each other, we shall be able to reach greater heights. Thank you very much for listening to us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Zainab and Salama, for your wonderful talk. We've arrived at our last speaker. I'm very pleased to introduce Bernardo Arevalo de Leon. Bernardo has spent more than a decade in Guatemala's foreign service, and he's worked for more than 20 years as a peace builder with Interpeace. And most recently, he was elected as a politician to the Guatemalan Congress and will start in January. So he's had very many hats, and we look forward to hear him talk about the importance of trust in all these sectors. Welcome, Bernardo.
Well, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you very much to the organizers for having trusted me with being present and share with you today some thoughts and insights on the issue of trust. And, well, as a matter of trust, when I received the invitation to participate tonight in this event in Geneva, in the United Nations, about trust, I naturally thought that I would be relying fundamentally on my experience as a peace builder, working all over the world, supporting wonderful people striving for peace in their own countries. But the first image that came to my mind at that point is actually related to this new career path that I have recently started. You have heard that I have been elected to Congress in my country, and I like to think that I am now in my third professional incarnation. I started as a diplomat, working for my country in bilateral and multilateral fora. I then reincarnated as a peace builder more than 20 years ago, working on issues of consolidation of peace, first in my own country after the signature of the peace accords, and then all over the world, in helping teams in Latin America, in Africa, and in the Middle East. And then now I am getting elected into my third profession, which is as a politician, as an elected officer, which I am starting in January next year. And in the context of this electoral campaign that got me to the place where I am now, I had an encounter which actually I think is very relevant for the meeting that we have tonight. And it's, we were doing what politicians do. We go to meet people. So we went to a beautiful town in one of the rural areas of my country, which is called San Pedro Carchá. And we went to the market to give brochures and meet people and ask for the vote. And as I go into the market, I find a lady that's selling agricultural produce who takes my brochure, shakes my hand, holds it, looks me straight into the eyes, and says, "Every 4 years, you politicians come to the market, making promises that you never keep. And then you come every 4 years to visit us, but the country never changes. so you say you're different, but why should I trust you? And then that was a very powerful reminder that the political crisis that my country has is a crisis of trust. That is the reason why me and other colleagues that, like me, have never been engaged in party politics decided to engage and run for elected office. It is a crisis of trust because we live in a country in which 60% of the population do not trust the institutions of democracy. Only 27% trust Congress to do its work. Even less, only 14% trust in the political parties. And as a result, 75% of the population declare themselves detached from politics, detached from public life, alienated from politics. But politics, democracy, cannot subsist without an engagement of the population. Without people that engages with the politicians. You need two to tango, and you will not have honest politicians unless you have engaged citizens. So, but how can you respond to a question that is really justified from a lady that, from her perspective, has all the evidence that this does not work, that cannot judge, does not know your record, personal or professional, and that doesn't know if you're telling her the truth or are lying? Then I remembered one of the principles from my first reincarnation, from my diplomatic life, which is trust, but verify. You see, when you are coming out of backgrounds of deep mistrust and apprehension, you cannot ask people, parties in a problem, in a conflict, to trust blindly to each other and engage again. You need to ask them to trust a little bit, to keep engaged, come back and verify whether you kept your part, you do the same with them, and so on and so forth. You keep engaged in a process that eventually will get you to reshape the foundations of the relationship, leaving behind the apprehension and the mistrust. That's what is called confidence building measures. So I turn to the lady and I say, well, I'm going to ask you to dare and trust me, just a little bit. Sufficient to get elected, okay? But then, do not wait 4 years to come back and tell me whether I kept my promises or not. We are going to keep our doors open, but we need you to come and tell me, am I fulfilling my part of the bargain or not? And I'm going to ask you support to continue this exercise. It's trust, but verify. And as I was working on this, I realized that actually maybe I am not really engaging into my third professional career, but I have been always working on the same subject, which is trust. As a diplomat, you work to generate trust that keeps the international system working upon principles of cooperation. As a peace builder, you work to rekindle the trust that is the one that enables societies to coexist peacefully. As a politician, you are working to restitute, in my case, or to keep the trust between the citizens and the institutions that it's as the foundation, is at the foundation of every functional democracy. But then, also as a son, as a brother, as a father, as a husband, I have been working on the relationships to keep trust. But all of us, this is not me. This is each one and every one of us in society is or needs to be a peacemaker, a peace builder, a peacekeeper. But trust is not a given. Trust needs to be built from the ongoing daily relationships of personal, professional, and political life. So, my message to all of us today, as we go back to the ever-growing complexity of our personal, professional, political, social lives, is remember that trust emerges out from the engagement in the process, that it is not a given, and that in order to allow the process to take place, you have to dare and trust. But please, verify. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bernardo, for your talk. Now we're going to check in with Abbas to talk a little bit about his painting that he's been doing for us. So I'll pass over to Rainer.
En français. Et je crois que c'est difficile à bouger.
Ah, d'accord, ok. Pardon. Bonjour, merci beaucoup pour cette invitation, merci pour la mission tunisienne, la mission suisse. Pendant la conférence, j'entendais beaucoup les mots confiance. Et la confiance aujourd'hui pour les jeunes, on a besoin de la confiance, quel que soit de l'État, quel que soit de la société civile et tout. Mais il faut avoir aussi l'initiative et pour avoir la confiance de nous-mêmes. Il faut être osé pour dire les choses, pour faire les choses. Même parfois, on se perd. Même parfois, on paie la facture un peu cher, mais il faut avoir la confiance. La confiance, pour moi, en tant qu'artiste, en tant qu'un peintre tunisien, djerbien, je viens d'un pays qui fait une révolution et le printemps arabe. C'est un pays qui est très jeune et donne beaucoup de confiance aux jeunes. La confiance, je le vois aux couleurs. Les couleurs qui sont différentes, qui sont joyeuses et qui sont lumineuses. Les couleurs qui donnent la confiance au futur. Le futur pour la prochaine génération, nous et les jeunes et les moins jeunes. Les poissons, c'est les choses que j'aime beaucoup parce qu'ils voyagent sans frontières, mais ils reviennent dans les racines, dans les Méditerranées, dans les bassins méditerranéens. Je vois bien mon pays très grand, je vois bien la confiance, et j'ai confiance en moi, de présenter la jeune génération, dans le monde entier. Aussi, je fais les mouvements, parce que les mouvements, c'est important. Quand nous sommes à l'âge de entre 20 et 35 ans, 40 ans, nous sommes à peu près un peu révolutionnaires ou rebelles sur la situation. Parfois, on rebelle sur les parents, parfois nous sommes rebelles sur les voisins, surtout. Et je vois là, ici, il y a beaucoup de mouvements. Et les mouvements, ça nous donne des leçons. Et la leçon on nous rend confiance. Je vous remercie pour votre attention. Je vous remercie de toute l'équipe qui m'a invité. Juste un message en tant que Tunisien. Je vous invite de visiter la Tunisie. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. Il est un vrai artisan de paix qui nous montre qu'on doit tous être des artisans de paix. Et en fait, il va montrer ses autres œuvres ici à l'ONU. Et vous avez encore un mot que vous travaillez sur la paix, n'est-ce pas?
Oui. Depuis que j'ai quitté la Tunisie, ou depuis que j'ai commencé à peindre, au début, je n'ai pas fait attention. Mais quand je suis arrivé à Paris, j'ai fait attention, mais je reste toujours spontané. La chance que j'ai dans ma vie, que j'ai grandi dans une famille musulmane et j'ai un nom juif, le nom Boukobza. Et un jour, j'étais à Paris, j'étais perdu. J'étais dans la rue et j'ai un ami sur Facebook, il s'appelle Simon Boukobza. C'est un juif tunisien. Et je l'ai appelé, je lui ai dit, Monsieur Boukobza, je suis dans la rue et votre devoir de me sauver. Il était un peu, il m'a dit, comment je peux te sauver? C'est quoi, c'est les devoirs? Si je peux faire quelque chose, c'est avec plaisir. J'ai dit parce que j'ai le nom Boukobza. Et votre devoir de sauver un Boukobza. Il m'a pris à la fondation, d'ailleurs que je remercie, à la fondation Opège Edmond de Rothschild, et j'ai pris beaucoup de choses avec eux, comment ils sauvent les enfants qui ont en difficulté, les enfants juifs, musulmans et tout. Et on a pris ça à Djerba, de fêter 3 jours pendant la semaine, le Shabbat, le vendredi, et la messe et tout. Je travaillais sur ce projet, les vivre ensemble à travers les portes. Au début, j'ai dit peut-être qu'on a des difficultés, on a des différentes choses, mais on n'a pas de différents, sauf la destination, parfois on va à la mosquée, parfois on va à la synagogue. Donc c'est un projet qui est juste à côté, c'est le Houch, il s'appelle Houch et Biben. Le Houch, c'est à Djerba, c'est les maisons, et les Biben, c'est l'ensemble des portes. Et d'une porte à l'autre, je raconte la vie quotidienne entre un juif et un musulman et comment on est deux cousins, comment on est à ce point qu'on est en vivre ensemble et la paix, elle existe parce que nous, on a la confiance en nous-mêmes et on a la confiance à la future, la confiance aux voisins et la confiance à tous les gens qu'on rencontre. Merci beaucoup.
Merci encore. There's a lot to say about peace. But sometimes, instead of more words, a little silence can be useful. We invite you to just take a moment, digest all the things you heard and saw, and ask yourself these little questions. What did I learn about trust? What can I take home from this? And how will I now work for peace? So, thank you. It's great to have words in the UN, and it's great to have the possibility of silence in the UN. Today, we not only saw art in action, we created a mosaic ourselves. We saw that peace is made of many different fabrics and colors, from police women, from business people, from artists, from filmmakers, from the grassroots all the way up to the halls of power, but including everyone in this room. Please don't leave this room thinking that just because you didn't have a microphone in your hand, that your role for peace is any less important. We hope we inspired you. We hope you inspired actually to action, not just to nice ideas. But we know it's a conversation starter. This conversation is something that will have to continue. And by the way, if it continues online, don't forget our hashtag, GVA PeaceTalks. GVA PeaceTalks, whatever. We'll have to see how much Twitter action we had. But don't forget that the mosaic, the real artistry for peace and for trust will only happen with everyone playing their part.
Great. We'd like to thank you for being an excellent audience, and as Reiner was saying, also to really think about what you can do when you leave this room today. If you like today's talks, you can watch them again. They'll be available on our website, peacetalks.net, in the coming days. And there you'll find all the different past Peace Talks as well. I'm also pleased to announce that from Geneva, the Peace Talks will be traveling, and they will be going to Abidjan, and they will be going to New York in 2019.
We would again like to thank our sponsors, the Swiss Confederation, the Republic and Canton of Geneva, the City of Geneva, Mirabeau Bank. We'd also like to thank our partners, the Permanent Mission of Tunisia to the UN, Initiatives of Change, the Geneva Center for Security Sector Governance, Free Sucette, Generations for Peace, and Tunisair. Thank you also to everyone else that made this event happen behind the scenes. That's the interpreters. Big round of applause. The technicians, to the technicians, the security, the ushers, and many, many others that made this happen. Thank you very much.
Great. So we all hope to see you at a reception at the Bar Serpent. There's also an exhibit by Abbess that you can find there. But before we go, of course, we need to thank our speakers and artists. So please join me in welcoming them on stage and giving them a warm round of applause. Come on up. Come. Please, come. Come. Great. There we go. Get on stage. Thank you, speakers. And we'll have one last song from Posto Shock. Happy Peace Day, everyone.
One last song.
Good. There we go.
Look across the island into the bay. 'Cause we are all highlands waiting across the burning water. Yeah. I see Bonanga, Mandela, la pecona, la pefelicona. I see Bonanga, Mandela, la pecona, la pefelicona. As seagulls wing across the sea. Broken silence is what I pray. I'm asking, who's got the words to bridge the distance between you and me? It's all about trust. Hey, I see Bonanga, Bonango Mandela, la pecona, la pefelicona. I see Bonanga, Bonango Papecuna, la pecona, la pefelicona. Hengiti, hey, wena nawe, oh, vela isila shako, la shako. Hengiti, hey, wena nawe, oh, vela isila shako, la shako. I see Bonanga, la la la, la pefelicona. I see Bonanga, hey yo,
Stephen Biko, Victoria Nche, Neil Abbott, Chris Honey, Johnny Clegg,
Johnny Clegg. Thank you. Thank you.